what we're doing, we made Afro-codhead-skank. We made our own genre because we got sick of people saying, oh, they're like a reggae band, but not. Oh, they're kind of ska, but they're not. No, I mean, there's ska bands in Hull. We sound nothing like them. There's reggae bands in Hull, we sound nothing like them. Like, our sound is very unique and original. And actually embracing, for me anyway, embracing and expressing that blackness and that African heritage, for me, was a powerful tool.
That was hard.
You should know my stance. Top boy when I enter the dance. A few guys that I gotta shout out. If it's not these, then it's gotta be Lands. And you know I gotta big up my fans, cause they know that the music bangs. I'm not seeking no validation. They're not doing me like they did Rams. Might see me in size or Yankee. 6'7", I'm lanky. Please no more hype questions. What answer I'm moving anti.
Lucky I met my boy Crafty, like, who I'm still real close with now. Like, he was like the first full rapper I knew rapping a full accent, who was sick. And like, he was unapologetically hooked.
Yeah.
He was laughed at, man, in this city.
Basically, yeah.
No, it was.
Yeah.
It was even by my peers, my friends. People my associate, people like in my circle, people who knew me, what you're rapping for, like, from us, like, what you're doing that for, like, we don't do that yet. Why, we should be in a band or something.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do here.
Yeah.
And we do things, we all want to be like Oasis and that. And like Bulk and Blair and that.
So why did you listen?
Because you want me.
When I have a label like Geffin, oh no, knife the pen be my weapon. Yorkshire's finest, what do you reckon? Talk the hardest like you're from Peckham.
Well, Chiedu was into Linkin Park because of Jay-Z, mate.
No, definitely not. No, not before that. Before I had the album. I had that. Is it Hybrid Theory?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that album. I had System of the Downs album. So because I used to love Chop Suey. That was my
yeah. Really?
Yeah, mate. Come on. I used to love Chop Suey. I used to love Limp Bizkit. I had my little phase, mate, and I used to like Papa Roach as well, and a bit of Green Day as well, actually.
Mate, I am shocked, mate. Like,
and Slipknot, Wait and Bleed, mate, and is it Korn? Korn.
On that first album, spat bars. You listened to
he did, to be fair.
Korn, what was that? Freak on the Leash. That was my song. I used to love that, man. I used to love that.
So now I'm just picturing you, mate, this black chav on Orchard Park. Washing out to Freak on a Leash.
Mate, the video
Revelations.
The video was insane, mate, for that.
Stick on it with the animation.
Yeah, the video was dope, mate. It was. All right, fair enough then, mate. Like, well, you've opened my mind then, because I didn't realise.
Judge your book by its cover, mate.
I'm judging all the covers of your book, mate.
To be fair, I don't think my music changes. My music taste has changed a lot. I did find like an old YouTube account of mine, Bobby Drake, and it's got like Huey from the Boondocks as the icon, and it's an account I've had since I was 18, and the breadth of it is massive. I've got like Fireball by Bob Sinclair, and I've got like those are all like DMX and Busta Rhymes stuff, Far Side, you know what I mean? And then there's Fall Out Boy stuff, Cody Cambria. My taste has just been massive, and that's been influenced by a lot of scenes and people that I've been mates with and stuff that I've just been genuinely interested in. I love that. Do you know what? And sometimes I fear, because I've been influenced by so much alternative music, by so much rock music, by so much like DJ electronic music. I worry that if I grew up in predominantly black areas, I won't be exposed to this sort of stuff, because music has led me to elements of literature, like books has led me to comics and stuff, especially with the comics. It's just opened up my world massively.
We both grew up in like a house where like loads of different types of music got played. You know, I was a big Michael Jackson fan when I was younger. And
they certainly want any rap music being played in our houses that when we was kids.
Yeah, no, the one. But then I had the CDs. When I had a CD collection, I'd have like your Eminem and your Tupac and stuff. You know, that I'd listen to myself. And then you've got like all your African music.
Do you remember when you got into grime then?
Yeah, I was saying this the other day to someone, like early things would have been like listening to like stuff that you had on your MP3 player, like your old Jamie and Skepta and stuff like that. And then like the thing that really like lit the fire in me was seeing Chipmunk on Westwood with Ice Kid doing his freestyle, you know, and just seeing like this 16-year-old kid. I was probably like 12, 13 at the time. And I just thought, like, I want to be that kid.
Mum, I'm on Zoom, Mum. I'm on a Zoom meeting, man. Out in there, mate. Nah, bro, I'm good, bro. I'm good.
I might have to put that in the episode.
Yeah, you should leave that in.
When I was in school, because I did feel ostracised, I did feel down. I was fat. I was like 19 and a half stone at one point. So you can imagine me. I'm in school. I'm one of the only black kids there. Like very, very few black kids. I'm fat. You know, like I'm a fat black kid in a very highly majority white place. I am not a popular person, right? So I've got very few people going for me. So I'm angry at the world, you know, and metal just sort of the metal I was listening to, it felt like it spoke to me and it reflected how I was feeling.
For me, I felt like you said, there was no black people around for me to kind of relate to. So really, by extension, the closest thing that I had was, you know, it's going to sound a bit weird saying it like this, but just like weird white people, if that makes sense. So I sort of fell in with like the oddballs.
Fully endorsed, yeah, fully endorsed. Being
into metal as a teenager myself, like I didn't see many sort of non-white people performing in metal bands, being the lead singer.
There's a band called Oceano, who their frontman, they're one of the heaviest bands in the world. Fact, right? And their frontman is a black guy called Adam Warren, and sort of I looked at him like. I looked up to him quite a lot, like, cause I thought, well, I feel like here I am by myself, you know, into this sort of music, and there's, you know, doing this sort of thing, and there's no one else that looks like me. And then there's Adam Warren, like from Chicago, I think it is, you know, releasing and like sort of like he's at the top of that sort of heavy pile at that point in time, and then it sort of look at it and you think, well, no, we can do it because there's one of the best in the business there, who's a black guy, is doing it. So that I looked up to him quite a lot. I still do look up to him quite a lot.
So why do you think? Sorry to interrupt you, but why do you think that there isn't that representation? Then do you think it's, you know, like black people aren't drawn to that type of music, or black people don't see other black people doing that type of music, therefore, or do you think it's a combination of the two, or what do you think?
I don't know, because sort of like sort of groups of black people I deal with now, they're sort of, I think it's a black sort of, if you live in a heavy black community, sort of metal seen as like some, like you said earlier, just a weird white kid sort of thing. Yeah. It's sort of seen as that, like, oh, what they're doing, making these stupid noises, and to be fair, that's probably the sort of view seen from most of society. But especially in sort of the black community, when I talk to people now, they're like, "Oh, you like that? But the fucking weird metal they're all shouting and stuff," and I'm like, yeah, it feels quite like that, yeah. It's quite a bit. I feel embarrassed sometimes for like saying that I'm into that sort of. I don't talk about it a lot with people because it's, from what I've seen from like the black community, it's sort of seen as just that weird white person thing that only like cool shooters listen to.
I'm Kofi Smiles. I'm from Withensea, but I grew up and went to school in Hull. I am the BBC's face of Hull, which means I'll be presenting as many of the City of Cultural events I'll be having through 2017. I saw kind of myself on the kind of mirroring the same journey that Hull's kind of going through. You have this opportunity to kind of show the world what you're about when you grow up here, and when you get involved in the arts and the music, you find out how many theatre companies there actually are here. You realise that there's actually a lot going on. I thought it'd be good to kind of get myself out there, because you never see a lot of people like who look like me on TV or doing stuff like this, and it'd be quite good to kind of inspire the kids to see like, oh, he's different. Maybe if I can use my differences to kind of get to where I want to be, because I've always thought that your differences make you unique.
You know, you basically beat at what, like 30 plus people?
200.
200?
Yeah. Come on, put some respect on his name.
I've got some big respect.
Can I talk to you instead? This guy.
So 200 people, and it all came down to Kofi, who became the face of Hull. A great time for us all, especially us in the black community. We're so happy to see a black face of Hull.
Mate, I had like my Asian friends, like my South Asian friends, East Asian friends, like, mate, this is great. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone pretty much, okay, well, quite obviously the white people that were celebrating as well, but a lot of people that were white were like, this is great for Hull. Do you know what I mean? Which I thought was quite strange and added quite a bit.
It was great, and don't get me wrong, I knew you was going to get it anyway because you've got a winning personality.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Colour didn't really enter into it until you actually won. And I was like, oh, that's a little added bonus, little added chocolate chip. But anyway, what I distinctly remember was when you won, everyone was really happy for you, and then you was coming around to mine and Amy's at the time, and we was chatting about like the reception that he was getting. And very early on, when you got it, he was getting people kind of saying, oh, but like, he's not even from Hull. And I think at first, we all kind of said like, oh, because you're from Withensea, which is still Hull really, isn't it? In the whole region.
The actual spec was saying they want someone who's got a relationship and attachment with Hull, with the city, and who can represent it during its City of Culture year.
Right.
So I spent I was going to school here from the age of 11, so I was like 19.
Yeah, Hull's where you spent a lot of your time.
A lot of my time. So we used to cycle there from Withensea, used to walk home from Welly, do you know what I mean, some nights, about 6-7 hours. Mad heads, man. I used to get back to Withensea and he ended up being like, oh, I've actually got to get the bus to college back into Hull. So
That's crazy.
That's mental, isn't it? That's not what you used to do, but that's mental.
Mad.
It's either that or pay 40 quid for a taxi.
If you lived in a village, that's what you did.
You did,
not quite that far.
But when you what, 17, 18 years old, who's got that money who's got 40 quid for a taxi?
I'd rather just stay home, mate.
Go on.
Nah, I'm walking for 7 hours, mate.
Were you mates?
I used to be annoyed walking from town to my mum's house, mate. 50 minutes.
With your friends, though, do you know what I mean? You're right. You do it like that.
Yeah, no one's friendship is that is that enjoyable for me to walk 7 hours with them. So you became face of Hull, and I would say you got a bit of backlash, right? And so obviously you kind of have people saying, oh, he's not from Hull. I think in some ways, would you agree, we all kind of took it as to be like, when they say you're not from Hull, that was kind of like a double meaning, because what they was trying to say was, the face of Hull should be a black guy.
And I think with that was a lot of undertones with the sense of, what does your typical person from Hull look like? Is it a black person with dreadlocks and tattoos and piercings? In a lot of people's minds, probably not. Even when I was talking to all the black people who were outside the city and telling them what I did, they were like, do you know what I mean? They was still taken back, and I kind of get it.
Yeah.
But then also, it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
But, I knew that was going to happen. That was one of the things that was putting me off from entering. I remember speaking to my sisters and being like, what is it about me that is going to be the symbol for that year? There's so much about me that is like very anti what this city thinks that people, a Hullensian is. Do you know what I mean? Like, look, the three of us all sat here. You've got a documentary called Black Kings Upon Hull.
Yeah.
People wouldn't assume that a documentary about being black being black and growing up in a city like this will exist. People won't look for it because they won't think we're here. But we are here, and even to the people that live here and see us here, we're not natives.
It's like Kofi now. Kofi's gone from like his little slot in the corner to being like the face of the morning show on BBC Radio. Do you know? So like, that just shows that like the doors are opening, and it's like, if you have the information and you're actually skilled within that space, Like, you can have the opportunity now.
What's internally going on when people see him and think these things? Like, what do you think that it's their perception of blackness is so kind of warped and removed that they see him as like just almost like something foreign?
Yeah, I think it's because like you don't see many black people or people of color within this like spectrum.
We live in a majority white city and country where people expect to see people that look like them.
Yeah.
So I think there was something around Christmas time, wasn't there, with that that Christmas ad with the black family.
Yeah, but
yeah.
People who've got things to say about that are like sick in the head. Like, what is the problem? What, you don't want a diverse community? You don't want a level playing field? It baffles my brain out why people would be offended and outraged by that. It makes me feel sick. It's not like 90% of the adverts on TV are not white people. In fact, it's probably 95%. But you're upset because one Christmas advert had a black family. Them guys are sick in the head, honestly. Honestly, it's weird, mate. Weird.
So, for example, for me, like, I wouldn't care if someone was like, "Oh, you're not a whole lad," because my lived experience is I'm a whole lad. Simple as that. Like, I think we probably all agree with that. Like, regardless of what other people might say, like, because even if we don't necessarily say that, like, obviously, Chiedu, the way you rap, we talked about this earlier, everything that you say and the ways that you all use it. It's like that's a conscious injection.
Yeah.
Of Hull.
Yeah. Definitely, man. I'm a Hull artist through and through. And I think that's the selling point.
And proud to be from Hull.
Yeah. I must be, by the way I carry myself.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about performing earlier on.
As in like
putting on a persona.
A black performance.
Yeah.
That a lot of black people, some of which we know, feel obliged to do to play a black role, basically,
to fit that role.
Yeah.
So I would say we're all unapologetically from Hull and act like Hull people should act.
I know what it's like coming up. Got pockets full of dust, but any means a must. And I'm just trying to go down the right path and take my family with me. Better myself, all this I manifested in me. And I ain't stopping now, I ain't taking no less. I've been also patient, didn't just forecast. I grew up my mum, using the club man to understand. I'm trying to get played in the club man, trying to be.
Do you think like the future of like, you think we're going to see an influx of black Hull musicians?
Yeah, like maybe, but like I feel like it'll be an influx of all ethnic backgrounds, because like it's not just black people that have been underrepresented. I feel like there's a lot of different like cultures and backgrounds that have, and I think like now more than ever is the time to like shine the light on some of them.
What's your thoughts basically on the black musicians in Hull, and over the years has there been more and more?
Very few and far between, to be honest. Like early days of Sesh, I think our first sort of black performance were probably the Gang. Do you remember the Gang?
Yeah.
The Gang, which were.
I think I saw them there. I think I actually saw them at Limit and Lack, actually.
So they were our sort of them and Project Phoenix as well. Project Phoenix, I think Nige Player One was involved with.
Yeah, I know Project Phoenix.
And that they sort of came through, I think it was through the Warren. And Project Phoenix and the Gang was sort of our first black artists at the Sesh. And then years have gone on. There hasn't been that many. I mean, like, obviously, with Bax, Bud Sugar and Lands and that, and with yourself.
So why do you think that is? Like, what's your sort of perspective on that?
I'd like to. No, I wouldn't. Not so much like. I think that because they haven't had any aspirational figures to sort of bounce off and get them excited and get them into producing music, and they haven't had the. I mean, there's some great places out there that provide opportunities, such as the Warren and Goodwin, and Hall College and Wilberforce and Wyke and that. There are organisations out there or institutions that provide production, opportunities and everything. But I think, kids need to see their peers perform in that. And you know, the likes of you and like with Chiedu and everything, I think you are aspirational, that you can break through in a city that is, you know, predominantly white in its music. I'd say 90%, 95% probably of the city is you know, music made by white people. But I think the 5%, including yourselves, you know, you're aspirational on a much higher level than the 90% of, you know, white kids making music. You're the flag bearers, the torch bearers, whatever, you know, that hopefully are going to break that mold.
So some of the powers that be, so some of the tastemakers, the gatekeepers in Hull, have a responsibility to champion black artists.
Definitely. But they've got a responsibility to champion all, I think. I think, you know, I mean, we've championed you for years, you know. Yeah. Let's think about this, both of you. You've been involved on the local music scene. What would you say, 8 years, 10 years?
8 years. Yeah, a step
10 years.
Yeah.
And you've been like, from my perspective with Sesh, I feel that we've given you opportunities on the weekly night, which has led to opportunities at the festival. We've offered opportunities with other things. You've made connections through Sesh and through that music scene that's, you know, giving you opportunities for bigger platforms like the likes of Freedom and, you know, 53 Degrees North and stuff like that. All these, you've been afforded quite a lot of opportunities, like you two especially. It's the ones underneath you that need to be championed a bit more. And given those opportunities, but the quality's not there yet. Until they reach that quality, it's very hard to champion them. Like you two, we could put on a main stage and you could be a headliner anytime on any main stage quite easily. But who else in the city of, you know, of sort of black hip hop artists in the city? Who would you put?
100%. Like, you have give us every opportunity, basically. Do you know what I mean? And at the time, we might not have seen it as what it was, but obviously, when you look back in hindsight, you can realise, like, actually.
I never did that because you're black artists. I did that because you're quality.
Good artist.
You're quality good artists, and you have a following, and you have a buzz, and you bring something different to the music scene. Because there is, you know, there's no doubt about it. It has been predominantly guitar led for years and years, and like you two coming through, and you know, before you, your predecessors like the Gang and Project Phoenix, you know, you've added a certain flavour to the music scene and made it more of a diverse scene. But it's still not there. It needs to be a lot more, you know, we need to champion that diversity more. I get you on that. I think we need to champion that diversity more.
But I don't want to champion it just for the sake of...
But as in individuals, you know, I can carry on, you know, I'll carry on championing both of you. You know, Bud Sugar and Chiedu is, you know, it's two of the main acts in the city. I mean, there's a core of about six to eight acts in the city that are strong, that are national, you know, that could quite easily go to any other city in the country and make your mark. You know, Bud Sugar could, Chiedu could. But then when you lower it down, and without naming names, but when you lower it down to others on the sort of hip hop or grime scene in the city, could they make their mark in other cities? Is the quality there yet?
No, I 100% agree with you.
And that's the problem. I want to champion it, but I don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're championing music that isn't really there yet.
Listen, I was born head and road like the rest of you champs. See, and now I gotta give the Lord thanks. I thank God that Rue's still here, cause imagine if he died when his belly got shanked. Who steered, who ran like Hanks? Who fought, who's down like Anks? DP ran about 10 red lights, cause Rue's top was red like Manx.
So yeah, here we are, at the end of our little journey together.
It's been sick, it's just been real good to do. Like, never thought I'd do anything like this. Really happy I did. Hearing loads of people's different perspectives on loads of different subjects regarding race. But I'm just happy we just had the guts just to do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, man. And like you say, like, learned a lot and being able to have quite, very valuable and sort of like amazing conversations with people and learn some perspectives that we didn't necessarily, I think for me anyway, I didn't necessarily see the perspective that some people have brought up. You know, what do you think, like, what was some important moments for you as we've gone along?
Interviewing Janet, that to me will always be like a special moment. Do you get me? Because I value her quite highly as a person, like as a freedom fighter. Do you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, it was just an honour to be able to interview her, man, like, and just hear her words, and because she's just such an inspirational character. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, I wanted to be able to tell her story. Do you know what I mean? And I wanted to be able to make her feel comfortable to tell her story, which I think I did. So that was a real special moment. Hearing the young kids speak, I think like they had like that takes some guts, you know, like to talk about some of the things they was talking about. Like when I was that age, I'm not sure I could have done that. So,
yeah, I think you're totally right about that. Like them being willing to open up, and I think also for us from the different generation to kind of to get an insight into how they perceive the world and how they rationalise things, and the fact that actually we kind of do things a bit different to them. You know, like when we was discussing the N word, for example, like clearly we don't feel comfortable using it because we grew up in a time when it really, you know, when it really seemed like it was only a bad word, and you know, if you go to Janet's generation as well, it's like even worse. I think like Godwin for me,
yeah,
kind of stood out because I just his outlook on life seemed real refreshing to me.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he was aware of the problems, and he, you know, he knows that like these sort of issues and stuff that we need to deal with, but it doesn't seem like he sort of like lets it define him, or do you know what I mean? Like he's happy and he's bright and he's upbeat, you know, all the same. And like that, I enjoyed listening to him speak. So for example, there are certain things like, say, the Kofi situation, you know, with the BBC and people being pissed off about him being the face of Hull. Like a lot of people won't be aware that that actually happened.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And people need to know that, like, no, we're not saying that we have the worst time, you know, in the world all the time. What we are saying is things do happen that wouldn't happen to everyone else in our society. No one would say to someone, you know, someone who wasn't black or mixed, they wouldn't say to him, oh, you should be the face of Hull.
Yeah. Even like Luther's situation, like where, like I think what this documentary has done is like there's different sides of effectively racism. Like people would expect, or people expect black people or mixed race people just to be rappers. Do you know what I mean? Like they can't fully be accepted to be in like alternative or in a heavy metal band, you know what I mean? Like we expect them to carry themselves in a certain way, and I think like there's different types. Like just because you're black doesn't mean like you wear your trousers low. Do you know what I mean? Like
it doesn't mean that we all like the same thing.
It doesn't mean you all like the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like someone like Luther should be accepted as a black man, fully accepted as a black man, who likes metal music.
Like Lance said, it's not just people from the black community that feel some kind of way. You know, that there's a lot of people from a lot of different communities, and even people who you would see and think, oh, that's a white person, but actually, you know, Eastern European or whatever, and feel like these like stereotypes, and society looks at them in a certain way and has preconceived notions about who they are, what they're like, what they're going to be, which doesn't allow them to be their authentic self, because they have to like especially with people in the black community, you have to play like a really good version of yourself. Let's say we get the opportunity to go into schools, and let's say we get the opportunity to talk to the police, for example. How do you feel about that?
Obviously, schools, no problem. Do you get me? I'm from the educational. I've got an educational background in the police. I'm not too sure, man. I've got a frosty relationship with the police. I mean, that's maybe some of the growth and some of the steps I need to take as a man to sort of start having trust for the police. But at the moment, I have no trust for the police. I have no real respect for the police. So at the moment, it would be very difficult for me to stand in a room and talk about race to the police, about me getting emotional. And I admit that as a man. That's something that I might need to, that's something that I'm gonna need to overcome myself, but that's just a part of personal growth. But right now, if you said to do it right now, today, I couldn't do it.
I'm gonna sort of like, not make it my mission, but I'm gonna do my best to try and put you in that scenario, because I feel like you've got a lot of growth and benefit that can come from that, but also there's a lot that you can give, and there's a lot that you can offer in explaining why do you feel that way, you know, what factors are at play there. Because I feel like your relationship with the police, it isn't 100% colour based. You know, would I be right in saying that?
No.
I think there's a class element to it as well. Remember when we first started this this series, one of the first things that we both said is we grew up on a council estate. And I know that's something that's very important to both of us.
Yeah.
That where we come from, and not forgetting where we come from, and how that forms the type of people that we are. So in many ways, we're not just if we was to have these conversations with the police, we're not just doing it for black people. We're also doing it for people from a certain class as well, who maybe do get, you know, marginalised and don't really get the fairness that they deserve and the understanding that they deserve. You know, Chiedu Oraka, it's been a pleasure going on this journey with you. Thank you for sort of being my partner in crime on our little experiment, I guess. And it's a shame that we can't be sat together like it was on that very first day of filming to have this conversation in person. But yeah, like, I'm really glad we did it, and I wouldn't have done it with anyone else. So, you know, big respect to you, mate.
Pleasure. Sick journey, man. Like, learned so much, and yeah, man, I'm just buzzing for future adventures.
Well, until next time, then, mate. I'll see you on the other side.
Until next time, bro.